it is almost critical as an entrepreneur to make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people that think like you. If you're only surrounded by other personality types, you will start to like bring yourself down so that you can relate to other people around you.
Totally.
And that's a very dangerous thing for yourself and your business, right?
You're listening to the StudioPTBO podcast, where we talk all things marketing to help you build and grow your business online. Welcome to the latest episode. Welcome to the StudioPTBO podcast. We are back at it again with another guest, Neil Morden. How's it going? You doing well today?
Great.
Doing well?
I'm doing really well. It's been a good day.
Life is good. And who do we have today?
We have someone who's in tomorrow already.
Yeah, I know, like the future, like Back to the Future. Everyone thought that, time travel wasn't real, but it's real.
But it is, because Cat Howell makes that possible.
I know. She makes it happen.
Yeah, Cat Howell is in the house.
What's
figuratively
happening?
speaking today.
Yeah, not really in the house, but kind of, sort of.
All the way from Auckland?
New Zealand, yes.
There we go. New Zealand. This is our furthest away guest ever, right, Cody?
Yeah, I don't think we've had a further away guest than New Zealand.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, welcome to the show, Kat. And I'll let maybe Cody give a little bit of your backstory. And you guys are familiar with. You guys met up in LA.
Yep. We met at the Los Angeles meetup, and I was there doing some business. And Kat is how did I even say? So we had Stan on the podcast last week. So this is a great segue into the opportunity that I've had to kind of get to know Kat a little bit over the last little while, being in her academy and then graduating from the academy and going into the Mastermind. Kat is a person that's I really look up to, and from a Facebook ad agency. So I don't want to steal any more of your thunder, though. Why don't you give us a little bit of a background on who you are, what you do, why you do it, essentially, how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I can't be further away than any place in the world, literally next to Antarctica. And if you want winning lotto tickets or winning football game results, just let me know. I am in the future. But as you know, I run an agency out of Auckland, New Zealand called 8 Loop Social. So that was sort of how everything got started for me. And through the years, as I was building my agency, I started to support other agency owners and basically peers in the industry. And that sort of transformed into a whole nother business in itself, working with lots of freelancers and agencies as a consequence of that. And it's been a crazy journey and amazing journey, and so honored to have been a part of your own journey as well, Cody. Yeah.
To go further back, are you your roots in Canada? Are you from Canada, Montreal? I heard you lived for a while.
Yeah, I was born in Gatineau.
In where?
And I did live in Montreal for a while. Yeah. Gatineau.
Oh, Gatineau. Okay. No? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're breaking.
I'll say it in French. Gatineau. Yeah.
Gatineau.
Yeah.
Gatineau.
Yeah.
And how long were you in Canada for, and how did you end up landing in New Zealand? What's the story there?
I left New Zealand when I was 18 years old. I was imported by my ex-husband. Okay. Who's a Kiwi. So I've been in New Zealand for, I think, that makes it 13. That's 50. No, wait, I'm way older than that. That's 50 or something like that. Well, I feel like I've been saying 12 years, the last 12 years. Yeah. Yeah, a while. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's great down here, though.
No, it's amazing. And everything that you're doing in the online space is so awesome. And Kat's the one person we've been chatting with as an agency about really, reinvesting into what you're doing in the online space and the online coaching space. I'm really curious to know what really sparked the idea to start your own coaching program. You've worked with brands in your own business, 8 Loop Social. And, you decided at one point that that was successful enough. You're working with brands like, Fuji, and then you transitioned and you moved over to really starting a coaching program. What, I guess, inspired you to do that and to help other agency owners and other freelancers and contractors really take their business to the next level?
Yeah. So I think for me, it was a natural progression, because before I even started the online programs, we were already doing training programs with clients. So we'd work with Vodafone. They had flown us to several headquarters that they had around the globe to teach their teams. And I was used to putting together training programs, but that was more on the sort of brand side, teaching brands how to leverage Facebook and social. And then what happened was I started to make some pretty big moves in my agency, and I was part of a couple of Facebook groups for agency owners and Facebook media buyers at the time. And I was quite active in these groups, and a lot of my peers started to see that I was, you know, scaling up pretty fast and doing really well, and started to reach out to me and asking, well, how are you doing this? So it initially started out with me just helping out peers here and there. And then it started to get really repetitive and very time consuming. And someone then introduced me to the online coaching world, like the online course world. And I remember when I first came across this, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, people pay for stuff to learn online? Yeah. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, holy crap, because now the world is basically your oyster, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was a very natural progression from that. And I ended up working with a couple mentors like Russ Ruffino at the time, who, you know, much like Russell Brunson, does a lot of like the online coaching funnels to just learn how to essentially set up that type of business. What it's done for 8Loop in itself is the agency space can be very volatile in terms of revenues. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that ever goes away, because I mean, just here in Auckland last week, Saatchi and Saatchi had to make 100 people redundant because they lost a huge account, right?
Wow, one of the biggest agencies in the world, yeah.
Right, and it happens all the time in the agency world. You lose a big account and you have to readjust, right? Your revenues can go like this very easily. Mm-hmm. So what it did for my agency, the program, was it sort of created like a lot more stability. And then, of course, the second income stream, which opened up a whole new world for me as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Cat, you are an incredibly early adopter to Facebook and Facebook targeted ads. And it's such a foreign concept to most of the people in the world still. A lot of big brands have no idea this world exists. And it's a goldmine for them potentially. And we meet with so many clients that, you know, you've taken this program and you try and explain it to them, but they just don't get it. How did you figure this out so early? Like, you're such a pioneer in this regard. Like, what was it that that your gateway sort of to this world and unearthing this gem?
Well, it was with my first business that I tried to launch, which was called Yeti. It had every vowel that in, like, literally every vowel. No one knows how to spell it. I still don't really know how to spell it properly. And I launched that, and this was, oh man, this was a while back. This was when there was no retargeting. There was no such thing as retargeting on Facebook. It was pretty much, I remember if you didn't have a period at the end of your headline, you know, the headline that you use in your ads would get disapproved because you weren't using proper grammar. Like, it was a totally different world. And I was trying to basically build up an audience and make some sales for this business that I had launched, and I really had no idea what I was doing. But in many ways, that is the best and fastest way to learn, right? When you're doing it on your own dime, and just going inside of the ad account and actually cutting your teeth on it. I'm really lucky that I feel like, you know, much how they say that everyone has a city they resonate with in the world, like everyone has a city that energetically they connect with. Totally. I feel like a lot of marketers have a platform that they resonate with. So if you put me in Google, I will shit myself. I literally, like, still to this day, I look at analytics and I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like, this is insane. So, like, I don't even know how to log into LinkedIn. I haven't logged into LinkedIn in about 5 years. And I know it's great, right? Because everyone raves about it and there's so many strategies. And we just recently tried to do some Pinterest ads and that was a fucking hot mess. But for whatever reason, like, Facebook is my jam. my brain just like intuitively understands the platform as much as you possibly can, given that the platform changes literally.
Totally.
There's pretty much an average of, it averages out to almost an algorithm change every single day. So it's a pretty fast changing platform, just like Google. But yeah, I just cut my teeth in there, and I'm always inside of the ad accounts. So I've made sure that I really keep my foot inside of Facebook, just to stay across like what's really working and what's not. And it's obviously gotten to a stage now where to be a good Facebook marketer, I would say probably 90% of it is literally just getting out of the way of Facebook. Like it used to be that targeting was really important, right? Like really, really important. And nowadays, like Facebook can pretty much figure out who you're trying to go after. And as long as it's a fan of your funnel and it likes what you're trying to do and you're putting out good content and behaving the way that it wants advertisers to behave, which is responding to all the comments on your ads, putting things that are engaging, keeping your creatives fresh, social proof, having cookie notices, all of the stuff that it wants, it will do most of the work for you if you get out of its way. So it's a totally different platform now. That the algorithm is so much more powerful. Yeah.
It's really unique what you're doing in the online space around like specifically for contractors, that like you have a program called, FATC, really well known. You have the Digital Distillery, which essentially matches agency owners with contractors. Maybe talk to us a little bit about that and how that spawned specifically the contractor database, and what made you essentially want to help freelancers and contractors get jobs. I'll let you talk about it. Like, maybe give us a little background on what FATC is, and essentially how it's helping the freelancer world.
Yeah, so FATC started off a little bit selfishly, because what it was I was really struggling to find media buyers for 8 Loop Social. And specifically media buyers that could do it in the techniques that I wanted things done, or the way that I knew, or the processes that I had, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I did was I thought, well, let me actually train people up in these processes of our agencies, and then we can keep an eye on who's like really good, and we can hire from this pool. And subsequently, that ended up being a whole business on its own. And people are, obviously paying for this training now. And the whole matchmaking situation with the members that we have in there, that was very much because I started to work with the agency owners, and a lot of them were going, we need media buyers for our funnels, for our clients, for the campaigns that we're managing. And it just made a lot of sense. It was, okay, well, we're training people here. We've got people with demand here. So it started off as just matching our masterminders with FATC. And then because I run Ad Hacks, the big Facebook group, we were getting lots of requests through that. So now we get about 2,000 businesses a month submitting requests to get matched with media buyers, and it works out pretty well. Yeah. It's all on an Excel spreadsheet though. So that's the next step for us, is to automate that, because it's
no shit.
Yeah, that's old school there, Kat. That's real old school, isn't it?
Freaking old school, yeah.
Keeping it real. Yeah. I want to circle back to something you said earlier, because and I like that you said you sort of stay in your lane with Facebook, and you're not really like these other platforms. Someone like Gary Vaynerchuk would say, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and be on LinkedIn, and be on Instagram, and be on Twitter, and be on Pinterest. And, you sort of are putting all your eggs in one basket. I know you're making a killing there and crushing it, but God forbid, as Gary Vee says, you wake up one day and Facebook doesn't exist, or it's a much different shape and form. Have you thought about that, or do you have nightmares about that ever at night?
I have had nightmares, I'm not going to lie. But what I would say to that is, that's who you hire. So you hire people that so our marketing guy is like a gun with SEO and a gun with Google Ads. So for me, I don't need to know it. I don't really need to understand it. I don't need to go in it, because I've hired someone who's good at it.
Absolutely.
So we definitely diversify what we're doing, because, you don't own Facebook and you never know what's going to happen. What I will say, though, is, back in the 1990s, I remember people were saying email is dead. Literally. People were saying email is dead. If you're doing email marketing, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Email is still by far the strongest marketing channel there is. It
100%.
outbeats any marketing channel. So I don't think the fact that Facebook survived Cambridge Analytica the way that it did, and it didn't just survive it, it exploded. It actually grew on the back of
more
this
exposure.
huge scandal.
Yeah,
Right.
the fucking stock went through the roof.
Yeah, any press is good press.
Yeah, and the amount of data that they have, I mean, I don't see it going anywhere soon. Now, I think it is naive to say it will be, still the number one platform in 10 years. Who knows, right? But if we're looking at like the next 2-3 years, I don't think Facebook's going anywhere soon. But yes, I think it's always safe to diversify. Having said that, if you don't have resources to have huge teams or to hire people to help you get that, I think you're far better off going, okay, this is a boom. There's an opportunity here. When I first got started out, you couldn't even give a blowjob to boost a post. Like businesses were not interested. They were like Facebook ads was what they got their interns to do, right?
Yeah,
right.
You were doing social media management and Facebook ads was like on the side. No one cared. Now, holy shit, it's a 180. Like a million businesses a year are jumping on this platform. It's you see it in the CPMs, right? The costs are going up. And that's actually a very good thing. We hate it as advertisers, but it's a very good thing because it just
credibility.
goes
Yeah.
Holy shit, it's growing, right? It's a huge boom time. So I would say it's focusing, there's also something to be said where you stretch yourself too much. And I don't believe that you can be a jack of all trades, especially with platforms that have algorithm changes daily. It's very fucking hard to achieve mastery of both Google and Facebook. Like Google itself is its own thing, and Facebook itself, I don't even know half the time what the hell Facebook's doing, and I live and breathe it, so I would find it impossible to be a master at both of them. Yeah.
And that's what drew me to you really early on. I've been following like everything you're doing, and we finally invested in an academy. Now we're in the Mastermind. What drew me to people like you and, Russell Brunson and these guys in the online space, especially like on Facebook and you're saying similar things about email marketing. Like there's, big wigs out there like Gary Vaynerchuk who's saying telling businesses to do everything and not discount everything. But the issue within the online space is people aren't mastering one thing. And then, like a lot of what Russell Brunson talks a lot about, and like we echo that a lot on our podcast, is that one funnel, one offer. Creating, and, I know Cat, even through going through the academy, that was the thing that really helped us really take our business to the next level in the online space. Niching down, creating creating one offer for one specific avatar. Yeah. And, it's really unique that, I understand the Gary Vaynerchuk, mindset of just put out content,
which had a big impact on us for brand lift.
Absolutely. Brand lift, but there's a difference between lead generation and brand lift. 100%. So I'm really curious to know your thought process behind just this idea in the online space of one funnel, one offer. Have you seen tremendous success with businesses creating that in their business? And what are you seeing in the Facebook online space that's working and not working?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, is that the main thing you should be focusing on isn't necessarily the traffic source or how you drive traffic, but it is really the offer and who you're communicating to and the messaging. That is fundamental, because you can be really, I've personally worked on accounts myself, and I've seen phenomenal marketers on accounts where the marketers are great, but the offer is shit and it's never going to go anywhere, right? It doesn't convert, it doesn't work. And so if you can nail that piece down and let's say Facebook goes down or you get your stuff disabled, well, really Facebook is just a traffic source. You can buy traffic in many different places. You can buy them in newspaper ads. That's old school, but there's a lot of different places and ways to buy traffic and to get eyeballs onto your messages for your ideal avatar, right? So I think that is definitely the most critical thing, is getting your messaging and your offer right first and foremost, that funnel. The one funnel, one offer thing, we did have a webinar that we used for about 2 years, and that one netted us about 10 million all up. So that was, I mean, I don't know that we would use the same funnel for the rest of our life, but for sure it's simple updates and edits, right? Like it doesn't, the concept and the messaging and the offer is still very much the same at the end of the day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Cat, I want to talk to you about being an entrepreneur, and a lot of the guests that come on, we do have entrepreneurs, and it takes a hell of a lot of resilience and mindset and self-confidence, and I guess a healthy ego, but it's such a roller coaster, isn't it? It's just incredible. I mean, you can have one good day and then the next day just completely goes to shit. And there's just such highs. It's a roller coaster. It's an incredible roller coaster. And you can never, I tell, young entrepreneurs, you can never get too high. You can never get too low. But what's your sense on this after years of being an entrepreneur? Do you ever find that do you live in fear each day? Like, does fear drive you, or what kind of motivates you in terms of being an entrepreneur and facing obstacles and setbacks?
Yeah, really good question. And I recently had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Cameron Harold, about, he wrote the book Double Double and a couple other books, but in his book, he asks a series of questions, do you have a lot of energy? Do you feel like your head is full of ideas? Do you often work on very little sleep? And there's a series of 10 questions. And if you relate to at least 5 of them, you have what is bipolar disease, according to society. What's interesting, though, about that is that most entrepreneurs will relate with at least 5 of those questions. Mm-hmm. And so here's what I have observed in my own life is that we are just like accountants think like accountants. They think numeric. I can't think like that. My brain doesn't think in numbers, and nor does my brain think operationally, right? I have like visions and ideas, and I need to go. I think we're a special breed of people, right? Yeah. Entrepreneurs. We think a certain way, unique to the types of individuals that we are, and we're very misunderstood in society. We're essentially labeled as having bipolar in school, right? Yeah. And so what you can get in, the risk that you get into because of that is it's so freaking easy to start to feel like you're going crazy. Mm-hmm. And to get very fearful of what you're doing because you're doing things that other people are looking at you going, what the hell are you doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And I recently went through a phase like that literally a month or so ago where I thought I was having a Britney Spears moment because I was,
Save Cat.
Oh my God, I was just short of me shaving my head, right? That was like the last piece. But what I realized was the importance of surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs, either peers on the same level as yourself or those above you. Because if you start to isolate yourself, and so for example, here I'm mostly in Auckland, I'm mostly surrounded by my team. And to be fair, like I can't walk into the office and go like, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing, right? I have to I have to have a front and be a confident leader. Otherwise my team will freak out. But the reality is most mornings I wake up and I'm like, dude, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. Like this all looks crazy. And I can get very isolated very quickly in Auckland, and it can lead to a lot of situations where I start to doubt myself, where I get really afraid and anxious, and where I literally feel like I'm crazy. And so to that point, I would say it is almost critical as an entrepreneur to make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people that think like you. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you do run the risk of like doubting everything that you do and getting into fear thinking, scarcity thinking. You start to lower yourself down because the reality is like, what is the number one thing humans want? We want connection, right? We want to be accepted by others around us. We want that human connection. So if you're only surrounded by other personality types, you will start to like bring yourself down so that you can relate to other people around you.
Totally.
And that's a very dangerous thing for yourself and your business, right? So that's probably the most important thing that I've ever the mindset and surrounding myself with peers that I've
Find
ever
your
done.
tribe. Yeah. No, it's great advice.
Yeah. The big, like, one of the biggest things, like when I went through the academy that really, stuck with me, and like, you can maybe chat a little bit about, like, I'm curious to know kind of why you're stopping the academy. We can talk a little bit about that. You made a long post the other day kind of about the reason, but one of the biggest things like that you talked about at the beginning of the academy was kind of all about mindset, like, and believing that you can essentially do it, and having that mindset more than anything of like taking yourself to the next level. And that was for me kind of the foundation, I guess you could say, of the academy, that allowed me to get on sales calls, and sales coaching calls with Stan in order to figure out how to kind of, do this all, like as an agency more than anything. So I'm really curious to know, like, how do you reduce noise and pressure that happens specifically as an entrepreneur? It's like you have this, like, this mindset of like, I know that I can do this, and I know that like I'm capable of getting to this next level, and I know that I'm capable of getting here. I believe it. But oftentimes there's a lot of noise and pressure that happens with entrepreneurship of like, you feel like you're doing all the right things, you're following all the right processes. You feel like you're doing everything, but things just aren't breaking. How do you get through those moments as an entrepreneur where you feel like you put in all the processes, all the things, and things just aren't getting there? How do you reduce the noise and the pressure?
Yeah. So I have like two kind of trains of thoughts around those types of experiences that encounter in your business, and we can talk about that with pausing the academy, as you mentioned before. But for me, what I know is that if I stop practicing my daily mindfulness practices, and for me that's journaling, so every day I will review my goals, I will write them down, and then I also go through an exercise daily where I basically like script my ideal day, and I write it in the present moment. So I'm basically writing like, okay, I'm waking up, I wake up and I'm doing meditation for an hour, and I exercise, and then I have time with my family. So I do that practice every single day. And then I do about 15 to 20 minutes of meditation where I basically just like sit with that vision. And I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of days where my mind will wander and I'm thinking about a million other things. But at 100%, if I stop doing that, those fears, those doubts, those stories about like, because sometimes, man, when you're an entrepreneur, you make some pretty big moves. And, one day you turn around and you're like, holy shit, I have 30 fucking staff. I have a payroll of like 200K a month. And it's like, oh, fuck, like, don't fuck it up. And then as soon as you start to dwell on that, it's like, oh, fuck, and the panic sets in, and you're like, and that's what you're doing. You're always putting yourself on the edge so you can grow as an entrepreneur. And sometimes you look back and you're like freaking out, like, holy shit, I'm on the edge of a cliff here. What the hell? So if you don't practice that daily, it can get really slippery, really fast for you. Now, to that point, what I will also say is that sometimes you will go through situations where you will encounter turbulence and obstacles and challenges and all of that stuff. Eckhart Tolle says this really well. I don't think it is possible to have growth without a challenge or without an obstacle, right? It is impossible for consciousness to grow or to evolve or to become more one without those obstacles. And so I think it's also your perception of how you do things that happen to you in your business and what happens to you, right? So it's much like the caterpillar, right? When the caterpillar goes to morph into a butterfly, so it surrounds itself in a cocoon and its insides all turn to mush. Literally, it dissolves. Yeah. Everything turns to mush and becomes undone before it can be put together into something new. So I think it is very normal in the space that we will probably, the entrepreneurs will encounter obstacles and turbulence and challenges or put themselves in situations like that far more than, say, an accountant might do, for example. Mm-hmm. They definitely have their own challenges. I'm not negating that. But if you don't practice, focusing with yourself and like realigning with that vision and where you want to go, it can be really easy to perceive those challenges and those obstacles as almost signs that you're fucking up, and things are going to go the wrong way for you. And once you start thinking like that, it can be very dangerous. Yeah.
So Kat, you don't have enough going on right now. So you've started another business that you're getting serious about. And I'm really curious about this one. So it's called The Theory of Her. And you're launching that with your sister, Sarah, or you've launched it, but you want to go harder at it. So I guess I would describe it at a macro as a female empowerment brand. But do you want to sort of walk us through the potential behind this brand for females and how you're going to navigate the Facebook rules around the use of the word vagina?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. We're starting to document this because I'm a Facebook marketer. I've loved Facebook. I've advocated it for years, and I obviously kind of in love with Zuck because I owe him so much. And yet here I am trying to promote this new product that we have, which is being labeled as pornographic because it's a female, organic female refresher spray, but it also has like stimulating properties. So because it is stimulating, it's considered as enhancing sexual performance and therefore pornographic. Mm-hmm. So now we have to look at tactics like cloaking, like what the CBD guys have to do. But here's the thing that's become very eye-opening through our journey in this process is that there's definitely a double standard happening on the platform where a lot of, for example, I don't know if you guys know the brand Hims. So they sell ED, erectile dysfunction pills. And it's an agency out of Australia that does this, and they have special permission to advertise, which is very interesting because so there's a policy that says 0 ads that enhance sexual performance, and yet there's certain exceptions to this rule. So it's almost like saying no ads for casinos, but this casino's allowed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. It's been really, we don't know if it's because obviously Facebook has to be really strict. Otherwise the porn industry comes in and, breaks through the doors in any which way. But what there seems to be happening in the industry right now is definitely a double standard between female and male products. And I don't know if it's because we're still so fresh in terms of like female sexual empowerment. That's like that's less than 30 years old, that concept, right? Yeah, totally. So we're still like a generation, that's only like a generation out. And we're still we need a couple more generations to die before like we get over that a bit more. Totally. So yeah, it's been difficult. We need to explore different channels, and I'm basically on a brand new learning curve right now. I have no idea what I'm doing, but in a way that's really exciting in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool. It's a great idea. I mean, I don't know. You have a lot of competition out there, but yeah, I was really curious how you plan to build this brand given the rules of Facebook. So, can you build it differently on Twitter or LinkedIn or through, I guess, more traditional means that like billboards? I'm not sure, but there's enormous potential here behind it, but you have to sort of circumvent rules or in terms of how you position and message it. So I guess it's a lot more complicated than really it should be due to this Puritan rules, right? So
yeah, exactly. So it's things like influencer marketing. We're looking at like porn sites for advertising as well. And yeah, we tried Pinterest. Pinterest is a no-go as well with this kind of product, but I think we're just going to have to enter into a little bit of gray hat marketing.
And what that means too, and what you're saying, I mean, if you position it as cleansing, right, as a vagina spray, then, and which isn't totally misleading, then that can work, right? So it's how you position it that can still, you can win by getting around the rules. So that's sort of what there is a gray area to your brand, right? In that sense.
Yeah, you guys can be our first ambassadors, our first male ambassadors if you want. We'll sponsor your podcast. Yeah.
Fucking, there we
Well,
go.
it's funny. My wife and daughter, I was telling them on the weekend, I'm interviewing Cat Howell, and I showed them the Instagram page because I texted Cody. I'm like, what's that called again? And my daughter's second year university. She's like, yeah, this is cool. This is a good idea. Like, I think she started following the theory of her, but yeah, there is something to be said for the guys being the influencers to the girls.
Yeah,
but,
no, totally. 100%.
But I do think it's ridiculous, the rules around that. And literally on Facebook, so you can market cleansing, but you can't market, erotic stuff.
Yeah, totally.
It's utterly ridiculous with everything else that's allowed on there.
Yeah.
It's too bad you're not powerful enough to pull some strings and call up Sook and say, what up?
I'm really curious. So you're doing a lot of stuff with, like, with your sister now, with this new business. You put the academy, on hold. And I guess I'm curious to know, like, what's next for Cat Howell? Like, obviously we know that you're doing the whole thing with Theory of Her. You're still keeping the Mastermind going. For those that don't know, you have to join the academy in order to get into the Mastermind. You just announced the other day that we're going to Mexico in April of next year. But I'm curious, what's next for you?
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the realizations I've had in the last year is that I do really thrive when I'm placed in conditions where it's a challenge and I'm able to create, but not creating the same thing over and over again. So I tend to get bored very fast if you put me in the same task or the same challenge all the time. Now, the danger of that, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like that. I don't know if you guys can relate.
We're squirrels. Yep.
Yeah.
Squirrely
Squirrels,
as
is
fuck.
that what you call it?
Oh yeah, we're squirrely as fuck.
Yeah, we're called squirrels.
Squirrely.
Yeah.
Such a Canadian thing to say. We don't even have fucking squirrels in Auckland. Yeah.
We have tons of squirrels.
We're squirrels that wear plaid.
What's a squirrel? Yeah.
What's a squirrel?
What's a squirrel? They don't have them here.
They don't have squirrels?
So
that's wild.
We don't even have snakes. Yeah. We don't have anything but sheep here.
Sheep.
And
Tons of
and
sheep.
Kangaroos?
Yeah.
Kangaroos? Yeah. Okay.
Nope, no kangaroos.
Nope.
Yeah.
Just sheep.
Oh, okay.
Just sheep. Yeah.
Just sheep.
But yeah, you guys should come visit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in the last year, the realization was that, if I lose my drive, the way that my business is set up right now is I'm still very much like the driver of it. I'm the one pushing it, the vision, and it's not structured fully in a way where it can operate without me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I lose my drive, if I lose my, my passion for it, my business is fucked. And every entrepreneur who has a business structured like that will be in the same situation. If you lose your drive or your confidence, either one. Lose your drive or your confidence, your business is in a lot of freaking trouble. So I think for me, the big realization has been I need to structure, which is what Digital Distillery is aiming to be, is to start shifting the brand away from Cat Howell, so that if I need to have a mental sanity 2-month hiatus or whatever, or if I need to go and build vagina sprays or dildos, this is not affected by it, and I can go and create other things and continue to push myself and grow, and yet not completely drive that company down to the ground in the process of that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is the process of like realizing, okay, you know what? I don't think I want to be Cat Howell, the Facebook advertiser, for the rest of my life. Kind of makes me want to punch myself in the face thinking about it. I'm still really passionate about it. So while I still have this passion, time for me to set up my company properly. And for me, it means, because I don't really know how to do that. I've never done that before. I've never stepped away fully as a CEO from my businesses. So for me, that means tapping into new mentors, learning new things, really studying operational processes and CEO, like how to restructure companies for exits almost, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the next phase for me. Yeah.
Who are your sounding boards? Like I have Cody and Nora, my partners here at StudioPTBO, our agency, but do you have a partner or a silent part? Like, do you have anyone that you can bounce ideas off of or relay these stresses to them and say, how do I devise an exit strategy, and how do I, be able to conquer my dreams or go after my other side hustles. So how does that work?
Yeah, there's a really good guy called Mac. He runs Exit DNA, and he's a consultant, but he's set up, I think it's about 6 or 7 to 9 figure business exits in his lifetime. And he currently just exited out of a huge kombucha brand, which I think it's massive in the States, but I forget it off the top of my head. So there's that one. Cameron Harold is obviously a really good one. So he's like the CEO whisperer. He really helps like bitch slap a lot of, these ideas that you have out of your head and go, no, that's a stupid idea. You should do it this way, And Mastermind. So I'm part of a couple masterminds like Baby Bathwater. I go to another one called Mastermind Adventures. But I must admit, the last year, that was one of my pitfalls, was that I really isolated myself. Like, I didn't really have any mentors in the past year. I didn't have any masterminds that I went to. And I think that's why I got to the stage in my business where I was like having a Britney Spears moment, was I was just completely isolated, So yeah, I think it's constantly looking at where do I want to go and who are the people that can help me get to that stage, and making sure that you're proactively investing in that. That's really important, because I think it's so easy for us to think that we're the smartest motherfucker in the room, and to
totally
think we know it all, and like, oh, well, I got myself this far, so, but the reality is, like, you should always be learning. You should always be learning. Every day you should be reading. You should be reading or watching a YouTube video or doing something every single day. If you can't afford a mentor or coach or a mastermind, there's so many other ways to do it, But you should constantly be pushing yourself towards that, yeah.
Yeah, I read a book a week now, and you are too. And you weren't initially when we partnered, but literally, and it really inspires us and motivates us. And you're part of more entrepreneurial groups and part of this mastermind. You're meeting people around. It's a world of difference. Never stop learning, never get complacent. Kat, we got to finish up here, but I want to talk to you about sort of your legacy. You have kids, and what are you trying to sort of instill and inspire in them? And you're sort of a product of the people you hang out with, your tribe, so to speak. And what is your imprint you're trying to leave sort of on this world? I know you have a long way to go, but what's the goal, the macro, the North Star, if you will?
Yeah, it's funny because I was having a chat about this the other day, and I don't know that I necessarily care if my kids are entrepreneurs or not. That doesn't bother me. In many ways, I think the entrepreneur faces a lot of challenges that sometimes can be very difficult to deal with. But what I wish for my children is that they understand that, they have the power to get resourceful, and they have the power to control the reality that they experience, right? So that's the main thing. Whether or not they choose to be entrepreneurs or business owners, I actually don't care. I don't care if they want lots of money or not money. That doesn't bother me. The legacy that I want to leave in terms of the businesses and what I'm doing now is I really, especially with Digital Distillery, with that brand, I really want to create a business that really empowers people through community, connections, normalizing new ways of thinking, and then resources and tools. Because I think so many of us are trapped or raised in situations where, for example, like where society is telling you, like, you have to do things a certain way, and things have to come about a certain way, or should be hard, or you should go through strife in order to get through success. And so my legacy that I hope to leave is to help show people that you can actually break through like all of that shit. None of that, like, who made that fucking rule? Who said that that's how it had to be, right? Mm-hmm. And you can actually create your own path. And sure, you're going to have challenges in that, but that's way more fun doing it that way than thinking that you have to follow, what generation of people that have totally different circumstances than you have laid out in front of you,
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's too many rules of life. I
There's a
always
lot
say
of
that
rules.
there's too many rules,
Yeah.
and it's okay to be unreasonable
Yeah.
and be comfortable with being uncomfortable and be a disruptor, a positive disruptor. So I love everything you're saying, the advice, and this has been awesome. Yeah,
this has been
great.
amazing. Kat, thank you so much for like your time today, and like thank you so much for what you're doing for our agency. Through the academy, through just through the mastermind, your time in LA to kind of pick your brain on kind of like how you got to where you are today. And I think people are going to get a ton of value out of today, like just whether they're a freelancer, whether they're a business owner, entrepreneur. I think we covered a lot of topics with just so much value. And that's, I think if I can end with one thing today is like Kat provides so much value on the upfront, and even within all of her courses, whether it be FATC, the academy, the mastermind, there's so much value that she brings to the table. Especially, you mentioned earlier about surrounding yourself with the right people, like the coaches inside of the academy, Stan, Karen, Mihal, like all those guys are just so they give so much to agency
They're nice
owners.
And they're empathetic and they're kind and they're fun
and they know
eccentric.
their shit as well.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So Kat, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for joining us on the StudioPTBO podcast. Awesome.
Yeah, of course. That's perfect soundbite. Thanks.
Yeah, I know. We'll use that in the future. And thank you for tuning into the StudioPTBO podcast. If you're a real estate professional looking to attract more leads, automate your marketing, sell more homes, we'd love to have you in the digital marketing hacks for real estate professionals.
Yeah, it's not easy.
I know that's a hard one to say. But yeah, if you're looking to really surround yourself with a group of people that are just looking to grow and scale their business online, we'd love to see you inside of there. We are starting up another 8-week online accelerator for real estate professionals. We just launched our first one. If you want more information about that, we'd love to chat as well. I hope you guys have a great day. And thank you once again for tuning in to the StudioPTBO podcast. We'll see you soon.